What's up, everybody, and welcome to our discussion. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has officially been shown off for the first time, and we have a lot of exciting things to talk about. So here to join me is Macintyre Productions, RMFH Gaming, and Grandstar. So to start off, what are your guys' initial thoughts on this game? We've seen a trailer, we've seen a few hours of gameplay footage, so let's unpack this. What are your initial thoughts?
Gorgeous.
Satisfying.
Simply amazing.
Perhaps a lot of you guys could also relate to this. We've been covering Zelda Wii U for such a long time that we're practically used to calling it Zelda Wii U, not anything else. I'm still trying to get over that right now, actually. And just to have a trailer that finally showcases information and stuff what the game is actually about is extremely satisfying. And the fact that we actually have a name to call it by, Breath of the Wild, instead of just calling it Zelda U, which, yeah. So I'm just glad we have that out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Along with the trailer, we also got an official title, Breath of the Wild. What are your thoughts on the title, and do you think it represents the game?
I think it fits the atmosphere of the game perfectly.
It's very fitting.
100%.
Yeah, I wonder what it means, actually. We see the subtitles mean something significant, like Twilight Princess with Midnight Ocarina of Time with the instrument. What does the Breath of the Wild mean? Is it like a plot significant event or something like that?
Well, based on what Miyamoto said in an interview, they really are going for a more atmospheric approach, rather than the way he put it, rather than more of a focused story approach. You kind of learn yourself as you go along the game. You figure out who you are. That's Link's job throughout the story, throughout the game itself. So I think. I don't think the name is plot-focused this time around, at all.
Now that we've actually seen a few hours of this game, and not just a trailer, everyone is trying to figure out where does this game fall on the timeline. It seems like it could fit in any of the three timelines. One host from Nintendo Treehouse called Link the Hero of Time. On Nintendo Minute, the host said he has been asleep for 100 years, and Aonuma said that it takes place long after Twilight Princess. So we have three almost conflicting statements from Nintendo about where this game takes place. So what are your thoughts on this?
That was actually in-game. That's something Zelda said, or not Zelda technically, but the person narrating Link from the beginning, that's what she says in one part of the demo.
I believe the main source, at least from what I've gathered, that said Breath of the Wild is in the child timeline is from Nerdist. In their video, they said that Aonuma, quote-unquote, said it took place centuries after Twilight Princess. I'm not sure if that's misinterpreted information, because I've been looking for that direct quote, right now, actually, and I cannot find it anywhere. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough, but as of currently, that's what they said. And makes, based on, I believe we all have we all believe something similarly, that this game takes place somewhere within the adult timeline, which
Definitely
makes the most sense. But I guess we have to wait and see.
I think I know other YouTubers. Zeltic specifically spent almost an hour, if not more, searching for that specific line and just could not find it. So I really think he was just mistaken in saying that. So it's really up for grabs as to where this would be.
Yeah, most definitely.
One of the main rumors that leaked about Zelda Breath of the Wild was that it was going to have over 100 mini-dungeons and only 4 main dungeons. Now, at first, 100 mini-dungeons sounded like way too much, and 4 mini-dungeons sounds like way too few. But now we see that at least half of that is true, because these mini-dungeons are what are now known as shrines, and they contain 1, 2, maybe more puzzles. And I'm sure some you can get through in 2 or 3 minutes, and then some it seems like it takes 10 to 20 minutes. In the main area that we start out in, the Great Plateau, I think there's 4 that you have to finish, or 7. I'm not really sure what the number was, so what are your guys' thoughts on this?
7 actually. If you slow down the text that they skip through, after the 4th one, which there are 4 main ones at first. After the 4th one, the old man states that there are 3 more left in that area, or in that region, as long as it's new each time.
I believe Miyamoto said in a while that he wants Zelda Wii U, Breath of the Wild, and he get that bad habit away
You're
with.
cutting out there.
Yeah. He said that he wanted the game to be very pick up and play approach. Like, you guys pick up and play and smoothly, easily play through it. And I think that's why the reason he went across the mini dungeon approach. That these mini dungeons do not take that long to complete. It takes probably at most like 10 minutes. You could probably get through it with like 5 minutes, or even like lower if you're quick enough. So maybe it's like that casual pick up and play approach. Oh, I can finish this mini dungeon and just call it a day, and let me get through with something else.
Yeah, they do seem to be. They do seem, at least from what they've shown, they do seem to get a little bit. They get more challenging with each one you do, and a little bit longer at that.
Yeah.
I think they found a way to fill it up, because that was an issue Alnuma himself had with Twilight Princess, was it was just barren.
Yeah, as they've stated in the past, they kind of tried to make the overworld more of a puzzle in a way, and you have to actually go through. So I think that's how they, structured each area throughout Hyrule, is in a way to where it's a puzzle, so it doesn't feel so, open in a way. And I mean, I do see, some of the tree placements are a little weird, but I mean, what are you gonna do? There's so much area that they have to work with here.
I think Nintendo or Anuma and the general Zelda team did it very, very smart, since they spread out different variants of different items throughout the world map. Like, for example, different variants of the bow, like you have the soldier's bow and other variants like that. And I kind of I have this old rusted bow, let me get a soldier's bow and keep upgrading and look for more items. Like, for example, there was a claymore there, and like this big broadsword thing. And so, like, you can just go around and, like, look for, like, fire arrows, bomb arrows, and things of that sort. And so I think they really went it smart, different items to go around, which makes me wonder, what are you going to be getting in main dungeons then? Like, if you already have all these items going around.
I would actually like to ask a question about that. Nintendo themselves kind of confirmed the rumor that there will be 100 mini dungeons, or, as we know now, the Shrines of Trials, and possibly only 4 main dungeons, which... well, back in 2013, were said to be absolutely huge. Quoting Alnuma himself, the average size of a dungeon in The Legend of Zelda for Wii U, we're looking at a size of about the overall size of Hyrule Field from Ocarina of Time. That was said in an interview with him all the way back in 2013. And if there's only 4 main dungeons that huge, are you okay with 100 mini dungeons, or do you find that tedious?
Alright guys, so Nintendo said that Breath of the Wild's overworld is at least 12 times larger than the entire map of Twilight Princess. The area that we start out in is called the Great Plateau. It itself is huge. It's probably going to take at least an hour or two just to get from one side of the map all the way over to the other. Even on Epona, going in a straight line, it's going to take hours just to get from one side of the map to the other. And that doesn't even include getting off of Epona, climbing walls, dodging enemies, swimming across lakes, and going around mountains. So do you think there will be any other modes of transportation? Maybe you get an instrument you can use to warp like an Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. Perhaps your Sheikah Tablet can transport you. We've seen that boats and other watercrafts are returning, but do you think we'll see the return of the Loft Wings or a new form of transportation?
If I can find where Miyamoto said this, he mentioned vehicles. Like, I was in a call with Rick whenever he said this. He mentioned that his development team used different vehicles, and now we've seen rafts. We've seen that rafts would be in the game. So I don't know if there's anything outside of that, but I'd assume so.
Yeah, also Cole caught a bit of text that they skipped over very quickly in the live stream that confirms that you'll be able to fast travel between shrine locations and the towers that are unlocked after you complete one of the shrines. So that's also another form of traveling a vast portion of the land.
Or so he's been told, at least.
And like segueing from that, I think Breath of the Wild kind of did something smart with voice acting. You know, there was a big uproar whether or not Zelda Wii should have voice acting, and it was pretty polarizing in that. I think Nintendo did a very smart choice in keeping voice. There is voice acting, but there's also text, like the whole text bubble thing, and you just combine that together. Like, we hear that one woman's voice who may or may not be Zelda or somebody else. I have no idea.
It could be a young Impa. We really don't know.
Yeah, it could be anyone at this point. But I do like that approach that they combine voice acting with speech bubbles to kind of give like new stuff along with traditional flows.
I think they're going to keep voice acting the main characters only. Aonuma did say that there are going to be multiple characters who had voices, but Link will remain silent. So I think we're going to see Ganon, who has a voice, Zelda, and anyone else they find important to the story.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with you, Macintyre, about the voice acting. They did it in a very almost elegant way where it's not, like the traditional game out nowadays where it's all voice acted. We got a mix of the in between right there. And I do want to see what they're going to do with this. I like the fact that they pulled that over from, kind of pulling conventions from Hyrule Warriors, and we can even see it implemented in the gameplay and how Link spins his sword all the way around. It looks almost identical to how he does it in Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah, they definitely seem to take a lot of inspiration with enemies having HP bars.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of RPG aspects in general. Do you like the change, or do you think it's not Zelda enough?
I personally feel like the overworld isn't as... It just does, to me. It feels like it's stepping out of bounds of the Zelda, experience. But at the same time, that's what they're trying to break. They're trying to break the average conventions. When you get into the mini dungeons and stuff like that, the shrines, it feels way more like a Zelda game to me, at least.
Also, there's something I kind of want to touch that we kind of. I was talking to Chloe before this. Like the whole timeline placement, or like let's say the story in general of Breath of the Wild. I think we briefly touched about the old man and Link being asleep for about 100 years, and I'm assuming an event happened prior to this 100 years, and then something happened which caused Link to go into the Resurrection Chamber. And the Resurrection Chamber is kind of like, I think that has some sort of let's say significance, because we know of Links are reincarnated through that whole reincarnated process. There's different carnations of Link. Is this Resurrection Chamber some sort of a pseudonym for that or something like that? But what do you think about the story of Breath of the Wild? Where do you think it could go to?
Well, that's what interested me the most, because usually he's revived through the Triforce, but this time he was resurrected directly through the Sheikah and the goddess Hylia, who of which is not one of the three gods of the Triforce. That is a very confusing detail to me, and really, again, questions its own where it would be in the timeline.
Yeah, definitely. Just the way that they set this all up, it just is really confusing to piece together exactly where, all of that is placed.
Yeah. But at least the whole game looks pretty fun, so
Looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it does.
I'm really hoping for a story trailer. It confuses me because it's not like them to want to hide a story that much. That's the most confusing part to me.
I don't think they're gonna focus that much on story. That's the thing. It feels like they're focusing only on gameplay.
Well, for this, of course, they seem to be very highly focused on the hunting and gathering aspect of it, the survivalist nature of the game. But they were so very much, adamant about keeping spoilers out of the way. It really makes...
Yeah, they even took all the villagers out of this area that we see. They took
every village out of the game, so I just found that kind of funny.
They're really trying to keep the veil pulled back on the story for some weird reason.
I think it's because they want us to keep questioning it more. That's...
Yeah, I mean, they can only give us so much, especially in one day full of freaking footage.
It's like...
So the last time Breath of the Wild was talked about before the E3 was when they announced Twilight Princess HD, and they mentioned that the Wolf Link amiibo that comes with the collector's edition of that game will also work and be compatible with the Zelda Wii U. They never mentioned how it would actually work with the game, but now we have video from Nintendo showing that if you tap the Wolf Link amiibo, he will appear on screen. He can help in fights, gathering materials, and help protect you. Do you think Wolf Link is actually going to be canon in the story, or do you think it's just a bonus?
Definitely think it's extra. I don't think they're gonna put this in as canon at all.
Doesn't make sense if it did.
unless you're like one of the crazy manga writers and you're going to try to figure out a way to make this a backstory, like making Majora a dragon, yeah, this isn't going to be canon.
The only way I could see it being canon is if that is a some kind of, like how Link was reborn almost through like what looked like a type of machine. He was kept in a cryo, or something was done to bring him back. When Wolf Link is tapped onto the gamepad, he kind of like shines when he first comes onto the screen. So it could be the actual tablet that's projecting Wolf Link out into the area that you're in. That's the only way I could see it being canon at all.
So one of the new items we see in this game is the Sheikah Tablet. We see it has several different abilities, and in each of the mini-dungeons or the shrines that you go into, you will collect new runes that unlock new abilities for the Sheikah Tablet. A couple of these abilities include it acting like an ice rod or a fire rod. We see it acting as a magnet to lift heavy objects. But something else that's interesting is that in this game, you can run out of arrows. You have a limited supply of arrows. You can find them, collect them from enemies, and use them, but you have a limited number. But whenever Link uses bombs, which is also a returning item in the Zelda game, the bombs aren't physically there. You don't run out of them, you don't find them, you don't collect them. Your Sheikah Tablet is used to manifest these bombs, and it works sort of like how it did in A Link Between Worlds, to where you have a meter that slowly drains for the more bombs that you use. So how do you think this tablet overall will affect gameplay, and do you think it's a nice addition, or do you wish they would have stuck to old traditional ways of gathering items and weapons? And do you think it's going to be overpowered?
I kind of question whether it'd be too much, because it really does do a lot. And the amount of stuff you get just by the 4th shrine, it really makes you wonder how progression in this game is going to work. But I think I overthought that a little bit, because there are a lot of items that we didn't see. What we mainly saw was your basic melee weapons and an arrow. We didn't see the normal Zelda things like the hook shot, the boomerang, things like that we did not see, that I think are going to be unlocked through regular dungeons.
I think personally, this Sheikah Tablet is just going to, with all of these shrines, as many as there are, it's going to unlock so many new things that can be done in the Zelda series and in the franchise later on, if they continue to use something like this element and everything. As we've already seen, they have the time stop ability, and you can use that on different objects, and even, I don't know if they can actually use it on enemies or not, but you can use it to lift up certain things, use it to freeze water and lift up blocks of ice. It can be used for so many different things. I'm excited to see what else it can do. How many more upgrades it can bring out, sorry.
I'm kind of thinking if the Sheikah Tablet has any story relevance. Remember how Link, he woke up after that 100-year slumber?
Yeah.
And we see the monks that were waiting around for, I'm assuming, a similar period of time. So with the monks, they already knew a hero was going to come, and that's why they stayed. So is Link sleeping, or somehow being in that resurrection chamber, part of a plan that the monks like, oh, we're going to wait for this long for this guy, so I'll be staying in this meditation for 100 years. This guy comes across. Does this have any kind of plot relevance? Is this like some part of an overarching story?
Well, Vortexi had an interesting theory about that the Link, there was a Link who was supposed to be, whenever Ganon originally attacked Hyrule before the Great Flood, and he passed. He did not prove himself as a hero. He passed away, and then Hyrule was flooded. And what she came up with, it may or may not be true, is that this is that same hero brought up after the land was dried again, which could have very well been an accident, as the Koroks had no clue that Ganon was sealed away under the water. So whenever the land or the water was all sucked up as in Forest grew, Ganon's power released. He was unsealed. And this Ganon was this Link was awoken from sleep, and he has to prove himself as a hero again. That's his job. That's kind of what these trials imply, is that he's proving himself as a hero along the way. He's finding out who he is.
In this game, not only is it a huge open world, but it has a dynamic day and night system, as well as a dynamic weather system. We see Link needing to change his outfits if he gets cold. He'll probably have to do the same with the fire tunic if it gets hot or to progress through Death Mountain. We see it lightning, snowing, raining. So what are your thoughts on this initial day and night system and the weather system? And do you think the day and night will have some sort of significance to it, as we've seen in games like Majora's Mask, where certain side quests were only available at night or during the day?
They did mention that the weather would have a big effect on the environment, and if it were raining at night, for instance, it would be a lot colder, especially depending on where you are. So if you were to say camp, you'd have to camp with a certain elixir that you made that would keep you heated up, or a certain tunic, for example. Again, just another big emphasis on how the environment is going to affect the game overall.
Yeah, I also have to agree as well. On a side note, there's we have the rafting ability within Breath of the Wild, and there's been a lot of speculation whether or not the same game would have sailing mechanics and things of that sort. You think that will be kind of like expanded, like let's say how Wind Waker did with its own sailing mechanic? Do you think there'll be a similar form? Yeah, same
I
here.
really sure hope so, because it looked hilarious the way they tried to get that sail to move.
Yeah, it was a little much with the Deku leaf.
Like every time he accidentally whacked the boat with the Korok leaf, I just had to contain my laughter. So, one thing I wanted to ask is, do you think the Sheikah Tablet will have any relevance to the Master Sword? Because the Ocarina of Time, as we know, was made of time shift stones, and the Master Sword looks to be, or at least its hilt, is probably made of that same mineral. Do you think the Sheikah Tablet will be used at probably near the end of the game to fully revive the Master Sword?